Hello, welcome to Moxie Journal. My name is Calix, and I am so glad that you are here with me today. I have a wrap up of my spring, really, so all of April and all of May to go through, and I wanted to share the books that I've read, the trips that I took, sort of general life catch up, and then the decks that I used in my journaling practice. My journaling is my sort of anchor for how I catalog and process everything, tarot and travel. So I just have a little bit of chat there, and I'd love it if you would stick around and join me for that and chime in the comments about any of these things, any of these decks, or especially as I'm talking about my travels, I would love to hear some travel tips from you. I'm new to traveling with tarot, and that was a pretty big adjustment for me in the last 2 months, and I have some more travel coming up. So all right, so with that said, let's go ahead and jump into what I've got. I've got a big mess right here. I'm going to clear it off and then we'll add it back in. So I'll scooch it over here and try and keep it a little bit in the same order so that I can find it in a minute. And then I'm uncovering this mat. I've been really loving working with this. It's a neoprene reading mat table thing. This is from Chromo Mystic. It came with my color. Well, I ordered it to go with my color mage cards, but it is a very nice background. So first I thought maybe let's talk about the books that I read. I do have a little bit of a fiction addiction, and so I have quite a bit of reading that I do, but I read when I'm reading books for comfort, which this one definitely is, this TriPoint. I read like 1 or 2 a week, usually about 2 a week, for books that I've read multiple times. And so I have a whole series when I kind of get launched into it by C.J. Cherryh. And these are books that are all set in the same universe as The Down Below Station, which was a Hugo Award-winning science fiction novel. And these are mostly sci-fi. I read sci-fi or supernatural with just maybe a little bit of spice in my reading categories. So I read TriPoint, and I read Infinity's End, and I read Rim Runners. This is about a space marine named Bette Yeager, and she's just, she's my all-time favorite heroine. This book, I probably read this book 6 times a year. So, every 8 weeks or so, I'm bound to read it. And then Merchander's Luck, that's sort of the 4th in the ones that I read. Again, all of these are set in the Down Below Station universe, the Merchant or Alliance universe, as it's sometimes called. But weirdly, this book, the award-winning book, I've only read a couple of times. I start it, but I don't usually finish it. I'm usually kind of done with my cycle. So in terms of new books that I read Onyx Storm. I just realized I took a screenshot of the German. I did not read it in German. I assume that's German. No, maybe that's not. I don't actually know. Maybe that's Dutch. Anyway, I read it in English. Whatever language this is not the language I read it in. This is the 3rd in a trilogy by Rebecca Yarosson. I know a lot of people were disappointed with it. I thought it was fine. It was I thought it was fine. I was glad to get to read it. And then this is the 3rd in the Kit Kolbana series by J.C. Daniels, called Broken Blade. This is a supernatural series, and our heroine here is assassin, thief, investigator extraordinaire. Now she's broken. This is the 3rd or maybe 4th in the series. I've read 4 of them. Well, I've completed 3 of them, and I think this is the 3rd one, and I'm on the 4th one. I just started. And then I read this book, The Atlas 6, which was amazing. I loved it. It was unlike anything I'd ever read. I thought it was fascinating. And then I read the 2nd one. I did not like the 2nd one at all, like nothing about it. And so I haven't even thought about the 3rd. This one, though, I highly recommend, but be warned about the 2nd one. And these have been out for a while, obviously, because they have all 3 of them published, but I just found out about them. And then, this is the one I'm reading right now. I just started it, V.E. Schwab. I love her work, or their work, actually. I don't actually know. I have in my head that she's female, but I could be wrong about that. So I apologize if I have misgendered or them. But this book, Gallant, and there are like 4 or 5 V. Schwab books and I recommend all of them. So anyway, so those are the books that I read, and I did a lot of traveling, so I had time to read. which was great. Some of the traveling that I did, at the end of March, I had 3 work projects back to back to back. And then the last day of March and the very first of April, I was in Phoenix. So I want to share that I took my new to me at the time Desert Illuminations Tarot to the desert with me. It was wonderful to get to read this. I read it at night, kind of every night that I was there. I was also there on a project. I used to travel, I'd get on a plane and fly 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 times a month, kind of depending on how busy it was. And then COVID really turned my job into 95% virtual. So I don't really get to go in person to projects very much anymore. And so this one was a little bit of an outlier. It was special. And because it was a really big project, I got to see colleagues that I used to travel with that I would see, once or twice a month for years. And then I haven't seen them, but, maybe once or twice since COVID. So in the last 5 years. So it was a wonderful chance for us all to get together. And then I had these cards, and one of the first spreads that I did, the very first part that came up for the whole theme of the reading was 3 of Cups. So it was just, this was just a great reader. If you haven't seen it, it's very bright. It's set with this sort of southwestern imagery, but it's also a little, it's got some aliens in it, sort of playing on that, the theme, the New Mexico, and it's daggers and jugs. And this is a butterfly maiden from one of the Native American tribes. This is how these women wear their hair, this sort of traditional clothing. So there are nods, and the book is phenomenal that writes up all of these references so that you can understand the art and who these particular people are. There are lots of references to figures from pop culture, from desert mythology, Sitting Bull and Billy the Kid, and all kinds of Wyatt Earp, and all kinds of, again with the aliens, all kinds of wonderful, wonderfully consistent and interesting thematic pieces to connect to the American Southwest desert. And I really enjoyed getting to take this there with me, and I will still read with it here in the Southeast, that is very humid and lush and completely different from the experience in the desert. But I loved that I got to kind of have this deck out there and anchor it. Really was, I don't know, just a fun piece of my trip. So that was the first deck I'd ever traveled with. That was new to me. That was exciting. And I then, for April, the other decks that I used when I started into April, let's see, I started off with the Seasons of the Witch Ostara, and this is my daily practice is my Wild Unknown Kim Krantz's. I call this my BFF, my best friend deck. I pull just a daily card, like what are we going to talk about? I don't have a specific question, usually just what are we going to talk about, from my little tin here, and then I pull the corresponding altar, the big version, put that on my altar, and then I pull Seasonal Oracle, which I've been using, the Season of the Witch. I used the Ostara. I started this with Imbolc for the Wheel of the Year. I really love the practice in Imbolc. I loved that deck. This series has had 2 different illustrators, and Tiana Lukovic. She is the one who did Imbolc and Ostara, and then the previous artist, Giada Rose, did Beltane. And I loved Imbolc. It was my favorite, and I was really excited to work with the Ostara Oracle. And I think most people have seen this, but I had a surprisingly hard time connecting with this deck. I think some of it may have been that I was traveling. I'll show you in a few minutes, but I didn't take this big oracle with me. I did take my little pocket with me, and I took the Desert Illuminations just for that weekend trip to Phoenix. But then I was out of the country for 2.5 weeks, and I didn't take this with me. But even when I was at home, there was something a little not spring to me about these colors, and maybe it's just that I live in a place where spring comes a little earlier. I do live in the southeast of the United States, and so I kind of expected these colors to be, I don't know, just a little bit more vibrant. This was definitely more of a, I don't know, just a little bit earthier, a little dingier maybe than I kind of expected from spring. And by the time spring gets here, I'm really ready for things to be a little brighter, for the light to be just a little bit more of that jewel tone and less of this earthy, even if it had been more pastels, which are not my favorite colorway, but that would have been sort of more what I expected. This was sort of like muddy pastels. And it just, I don't know, I was just a little bit surprised that I didn't like it as much as I thought I would. I still did work with it. So the other, let's see, what else was in April? Oh, well, so then I traveled. So I use these as my daily reader, but then I traveled. And when I went to Lisbon, Portugal, and London, England, and then I went up for just an overnight to Wales, and then I came home, and I was gone for 2.5 weeks. And I was on an art trip, and I was with friends, and so I had a magnificent time. I absolutely loved it. And I took three decks with me. I took these three. Oh, I forgot to mention, when I'm at home, in addition to pulling The Wild Unknown by Kim Krantz, I also then pull out the corresponding card for my daily draw in the Smith-Waite Centennial Tarot. This is the RWS Centennial Edition in a little tin, and it's the only true RWS that I have. And because I started really working with tarot with Kim Krantz, who does follow the meanings mostly, almost all of the RWS, but not the iconography, not the symbols. I've been trying to match them. I've been trying to get in my head the connection. So I pull this one, I do the draw, and then I put this one on my altar so that I'm connecting these two. And that's my daily. I did not take this traveling with me. I left it at home. But when I traveled, I took my little pocket tarot. I took my Coastal Curiosities by Lennox Reese because I wanted a little mini oracle, and I took the Tarot of the Abyss, which is black and white. And I know it's a full-size deck, but I wanted something that I could really rely on, and this deck is just amazing. It is, if you haven't seen it, it's black and white, or really sort of black and parchment colored, maybe off-white. It has a wonderful, really impactful guidebook. And some of the images, these are very detailed images, and you do have some options for some of them. So you have some alternate images. I could kind of pull them here. And this was just a really beautiful reader for me to have with me. I did only read with it about 3 times, but I did pretty significant spreads. One was in my hotel room in London, and I had this teeny tiny little hotel room. I was all by myself, and I had just a little strip of floor. It was like a 9x9 room, and the bed took up most of it. It was like a kind of, it wasn't really a hostel, but it was a little bit like that. I mean, I did have my own bathroom, but I didn't have a table or anything, but I did just lay these out on my bed, and I did a big reading, and it was just really powerful. It really helped me absorb and process some of my wonderful experiences that I had on the trip. And where is my favorite card in this deck? One of my favorite images in all of tarot is a card in this deck. Let's see if I can find it. Well, I think the Justice card is beautiful, and I'm in a Justice year, so I pay attention to the 11s. But it's the 3 of Wands, and I usually show it when I pull out this deck because I thought I had it right here on the top, but I guess I got into this deck in between the time I pulled it and the time I showed it to you. But the 3 of Wands is, and you all, now I'm fixated. Now I just really want to show it to you. You know, I watch other people do this, and they're always like, it's at the end when it's always like the last card. And I usually manage to have it kind of at the top, the card I'm looking for, but apparently I'm falling into the pattern. There it is. Okay, the Three of Wands. I love this card because depending on how you look at it, at first it seems like that ship is coming in, and then you look at it a little bit more, and then that ship is sailing away. And I think that's just such a beautiful way of looking at the Three of Wands. You have this figure who's fixated on the ship, but is it coming or going? So I love this deck, and it was worth hauling around with me. Now I do need to tell you that I usually am a very light traveler. I don't ever check a bag. This time I did actually check a bag, but I checked a bag because I had a whole bunch of things that my friends who live in Portugal that I was going to go see, they had ordered in the United States. It's very hard right now to ship things. And so I had an entire suitcase for them, and I filled it up and shipped it over there. And then I left that suitcase with them. So I really take a rolly bag that I can put in the overhead compartment, and then I have a backpack I put under the seat. And and I had art supplies because I was going on an art trip. And crazy me also took this tarot journal. I can't even fit it in the frame. This is a full American letter size. It's an 8.5 by 11 journal, and it's a year-long journal. I tried a couple of options. I was going to like Xerox or copy some of these pages and just fill those out as I go. And I just couldn't make myself leave it. So I wore pretty much the same outfit every day. I wash it like every other day because I didn't have room for clothes, because I was taking so many decks and my big ass journal and my pens and stickers and things. So I'm a little ridiculous. I know people who have this journal or who have this journal and they just leave it on their desk because they can't even take it to work because just that's too much. And then I have other people who are like, that journal is just way too big. I couldn't even handle it. I could never fill it up. And here I am. I can't leave it behind for 2 weeks. So that's the crazy kind of journaler I am. But anyway, these are the decks that I took with me on those trips to those 3 places. And then when I got back, I continued working with my oracle and with my wild unknown, and I received the Spirit Carrier Oracle. Now I've done a full gushing walkthrough, Chatty deck walkthrough of the Spirit Carrier Oracle by Illuzia. So I won't do that now. I'll give you just a little peek. These cards, these are rune cards, and they are photographic, and they're beautiful. So this is an oracle. It's got keywords. It's got a beautiful book that goes with it. It is just one of my favorite pieces of my practice. So that was waiting for me, I think, when I got back from my trip. So I started working with it, kind of learning about it in April, in the middle of April. So that was a new piece. And then we get to May. Oh no, I have one more piece that came up a deck that I worked with in April. I started in April and I used this through April, and it's somewhere into May. This is a deck called Holler Moon Mountain Oracle, HOLLAR. It doesn't have a title card. Creators, I wish you would give us a title card, so if we take it out of the box that it comes in, we have a title card to go with it in a bag. This one didn't actually come in a box exactly. This is a small creator. Her name is Priscilla, and she's in, I think, Sevierville, Tennessee, which is in the mountains that run, the Appalachians that run in between North Carolina and Tennessee. And these images, I'll put that one aside, but these images, these black and white images are wonderful, and they speak to visuals I have of where I grew up and where I have visited all throughout the Southeast, through the Appalachians, through Southwest Virginia, in the hollers and the mountains, and just this sort of the land and the animals. And this deck has been really great. I love this moon card. One card that came up a couple of times, though, for me was this melancholy card. And I realized as it kept coming up that I had a sort of sad anniversary coming up. And actually just yesterday was the 10th anniversary of me losing somebody that I loved, somebody I was dating and loved very much. And we got a terminal cancer diagnosis, lung cancer, and we had 13 days from the time of diagnosis to the time they left this plane. And that was my first experience with losing someone that close that I loved that much to cancer. And I'm really grateful to the people at Ochsner's in New Orleans, Louisiana. They were amazing. The care could not have been better. But one of the things is this card came up like 3 times in a row, and I sort of pondered and I realized, oh, this just, and I was really resistant to the cards, and this angel here just reminded me of a little angel that they have in the garden at Ochsner's. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. So I've had to put this deck away. I had thought I would use it, a little bit more into this summer because I kind of like having a black and white deck, and I had put the Tarot of the Abyss away when I got back from London. I thought I would use this, but it got kind of really connected to that experience, and I've just needed to fold it up and put it away for now. I cleansed it, and but I need to do something else. So this was part of May for me. And of course, May 1st, we switched seasons and went from Ostara to Beltane, so it's Beltane season. And this deck has been very surprising to me. So this is the one with the original artist, Giada Rose. And I just, in looking at it the first time, really was not as excited about this artwork. It felt a little more challenging. It felt a little bit difficult. I do love the bees. I absolutely love bees. But what I have found working with this deck this month is that it is really powerful. The messages have been completely on point for me. I have gotten some really deeper guidance, and the messages, even the ones, let's see some of the ones that are, I love this maiden. I think she's just stunning, the cover art of the book. And I love the Fire Festival, and I'm fine. I'm fine with earthy things. So even the cards about sex, magic, and orgasm and stuff, that's part of life. I don't have an issue with that. But some of them, that's not really my favorite. I really don't like that one. That one I have a hard time with. But this Phoenix, I don't really like that bonfire card. I don't really like when cards have bugs on people's faces. Excuse me. That is kind of difficult, but I do love the different ages and stages of these people. Again, with the bugs kind of flying around, it sort of makes sense there, and being surrounded by bees. Again, I love bees. I actually have a bee veil, and I have worked with bees. So the bees bother me just a little bit less, and I know that this whole deck, that's one of the themes. There's a bee on every card, and you kind of look for it. So I just don't really like them when they're on your face. And this one, oh my gosh, you'll see in a minute when I go through my journal, but this sweet cow, Highland Coo, she came up for me 3 days in a row. And I shuffled the deck and everything. I don't think I've ever had the exact same card come up for me 3 times in a row. So clearly, I needed to listen a little better because I wasn't getting it. So this deck has been really powerful for me this month, the month of May, which I'm closing out. We're moving into June. And the other part, so I do a daily draw with my Wild Unknown and my Spirit Carrier. Those two have really worked together. And then I have balanced I've also drawn my, RWS, so I can build my knowledge, connecting it to the Wild Unknown. And then, so I have been matching the Seasons of the Witch Beltane Oracle with the Lilifer Tarot. Both of these with the kind of Fire Festival of Beltane and the sort of earthy comfortability with Lucifer and Lilith in the Lilifer tarot. These just seem to go together really well. And this has been a really big pairing for me. I've done a lot of journal work around these two. If you haven't seen the Lilifer tarot, this is by Marion Constentin. I do have a Chatty deck walkthrough of this one as well. I'll put a link in it if you want a full deck walkthrough. But these cards, first of all, they are, well, look at the backs. They're so pretty. And they are so beautiful to shuffle. Oh, they're thin and really bendy, but the deck stays in really nice shape. And they're just, I love the drawings, the sort of watercolors. Again, I don't read with reversals, so they may just be all mixed up. But these are, I love these little creatures. I love the way they work. And oh, I'm terrible about pairings. I did actually pair them, but then I'm not showing you that how they look together paired. I watch other people pair decks, and then I don't even, it's like I don't know how to do it myself. So here we go. Let's do this. Do this. So you can see a little bit of how they work together. So these were just the messages really layered well. The colors seemed to work in ways that were surprising to me. I liked the elemental pieces, and then there's something about the line, the way the lines are drawn in both that are, it's not the same, but they're complementary, right? I think those are just, anyway, so this was a really, this was very rich for me. We'll do one more, the bee, and then the page here. This was a very rich journaling practice for me. I did it a lot of days, maybe not every day, because I didn't always have the time to journal quite as much as I want. And I do, I'm pretty much 90% on my daily draw with my Wild Unknown. So this one was mostly every day, definitely every, every day that I didn't have a work project. Sometimes when I have a work project, I get a little bit pressed for time first thing in the morning. And I don't know why it is on camera. I'm forever putting things upside down or in the wrong piece of the box. I do also really love, thank you creators who do these 2-part boxes with the little thumb pieces. This one is actually one of my favorites. I love the inside, and I really like to keep my decks that I'm working with, I like to keep them in their box. I like to keep it open on my desk like this, so that just they're contained and I can move them around on my desk, but I can also just really easily grab them and work with them. So that's how I worked with those in May. And then a deck that was surprising to me that I started working with, I think at the end of April, but definitely all through May, is the Naked Heart. This is the Naked Heart Tarot by Jillian C. Wild. It's an Etsy deck. This one, these are the backs, got this sort of sigil, and I have a cloth that goes with them, and this it's a really great deck. This book that comes with it is the guidebook. It's very well written, and it's written from a slightly different slant than some other decks. And I started working with this, and I was just kind of playing with it, didn't really have a specific place in my practice that I wanted to, to fit it in, but I love these cards. They have a lot of white space. Actually, maybe I've had this deck for a few months, and I only just this month started to work with it. It had been sitting out. I'd been wanting to work with it. I just hadn't kind of found a place. So I, for the month of May, I decided I would just start working with it, kind of see how it felt, figure out what I wanted to do. And a really interesting thing happened as I was working with these. Now, I do like animal decks, animal symbols and animal energy, animal gnosis, as it were, really does work for me. So that is kind of a hallmark of this deck. They're not all, I love the Fool as this beautiful unicorn. I love the black and white with the little pops of color. I love that these are, the court cards are the innocence and the movement. And so there's the movement of wands is the knight. And I really like that. I love the tower. I love the fire and the wave. The hanged man. I mean, I know a lot of animal decks use the bat, but I think it works anyway. So all of those pieces already worked for me. I love the scarab beetle as the sun. But then what happened when I was working, and maybe I'll do the Ten of Cups. That's, first of all, I think it's just really pretty. And second of all, it came up for me. But in the deck, let's see if I can show you here. The write-up is in the form of an affirmation. So you have the keywords up at the top. You have a little black and white sort of thumbnail of the image on the card. And then you have the Naked Heart message. You have the affirmation here. And it's in the form of a statement, of a positive statement, but it incorporates some of the traditional meanings of the message. So for the Ten of Cups, I have gone through an array of emotions in life and have learned to connect with them, explore them, and heal them. I have learned to restore balance and harmony within. My commitment to self-love and expansion allows me to offer emotional support to others and share in-depth connections in times of joy and happiness. My heart is full of pure emotional wisdom. Positivity emits from me, and people feel a magnetic pull to my radiant, comforting energy. I am complete as I am here and now. I think that is a marvelous affirmation from the Ten of Cups energy. And then for each one, you have either, you have like a familiar, so it's like what's on the card, so a giraffe or the unicorn, or in this case, it's a crystal, right? It's not an animal. And you have some information there. And then instead of a reversal, you have this heart disconnect, which is this reverse meeting. But it is in the form of a question, like a prompt that you could journal on. So if you're saying any of these pieces up there and you kind of contract or they don't resonate with you, if you look at the reverse meaning, you can use this to kind of dig in a little more. Anyway, so again, I do not use my tarot practice in a divinatory way. That I'm just not very comfortable with that. Those readings, when I tried them, just didn't really resonate, and I really turned to my cards for reflection, for insight, for self-coaching. And this deck, it turned out, as I was working with it, sort of organically morphed into being part of my recovery work. So I am a 12-stepper, and I have a long-established pattern of readings and affirmations that help me stay really anchored in my practice of living my best life. And these cards ended up just layering really well with the readings I had done that morning. And the affirmations really worked, or when I was kind of a little bit off, and the reverse meaning, it gave me something to dig in and write about that went along with my recovery pieces. So I didn't buy this deck to be a, recovery specific deck. I didn't actually use cards for that. I've just used, what I've gotten in my program, those resources. But this turned out to be sort of organically develop into a really effective and beautiful guidance and another layer. And it was exciting. It would kind of refresh some of my recovery work, some of my commitment there. It made it just more interesting. And I've been able to share this with a friend as well. So I draw the card and send it, and we can talk about it. So that's been fun to connect me not only to myself and my recovery practice, but also to connect me to somebody else in recovery. So this deck has brought a lot of goodness to my life, unexpected goodness to my life in May. What else happened in May in the decks? I got this new wave, and let's see. So I have two decks that are kind of fun and funky, and both kind of speak to a younger side of me. One is the Lucky Nugget Kitten Nugget Tarot, and this is a deck. I did just show this in a recent video, so I won't walk through it, and maybe you've seen it. It's a independent deck. It comes, the whole little kit comes with an oracle. I got a wonderful, the artist's name is Erin Murtha, also known as the Lazy Mystic. She wrote me a little note with a with a drawing on it. It comes with a guidebook, and it comes with this book. And it's a sort of a crazy little premise here that these are little nuggets. Like this is like a takeout kind of box, and like the guidebook has these pictures of sauces on it. And then this is like a, a little fast food box or something. And they come, I did put them back in order. So I was had something I was working with. And they're edged in this sort of holographic. It's not bitey at all. It's very nice. The cards are very straight. They're not super bendy, but they shuffle just fine. They're sort of a matte finish, which I like. And then each of the, I don't know if you can see, each of the suits has their own color. The majors are in pink. I love the Fool is like a little nugget that's about to jump into the hot oil. Maybe there's some packets behind there. The High Priestess has a little moist towelette package, and that's actually like the backdrop that's dividing her between the conscious and subconscious that she's guarding, I guess. And then the Empress plant-based nuggets in the grain here. So it does follow the Rider-Waite-Smith imagery in a lot of ways. This is a Hierophant. The levers, look at them with their toe beans up here, crack me up. The Chariot, I love the looks on these face. I love the little spatula here. This Strength card, it's like, just very fun. I love these, got like a little French fry. It's a walking stick for the Hermit. The Wheel of Fortune is the what is that, game show. So just this whole, I think the theme is done really well. It's sweet. I mean, Death. Employee of the Month is Temperance. So anyway, there are other deck walkthroughs of this, but it's been a really sweet deck. It's the only cutesy deck I have. It's actually the only deck that I have that has food in it, I believe. And I mean, like, sort of food. And it's the only deck that I have that really has a lot of cat energy. I do have an Oracle that has a little bit of cat energy in it. My partner is deathly allergic to cats, and so I tend to just not have a lot of cat things around. But this has been really playful and sweet. I've loved having it in my practice. Now, I will say that this is, I don't do inner child work. I think this might be fun for inner child work, but it definitely is, like it reads really well. While it could be, I guess, young, it certainly delights my younger self. I just love the whole theme. It is, in fact, and it is cutesy. I mean, it is definitely a cutesy deck, which I don't usually gravitate towards at all. I like storybook and illustrated ones that sometimes speak to that younger side of me, but I don't really like the cutesy, that kawaii kind of look. It's just not my thing. But this deck totally works for me, and the artist is really great to communicate with. The other sort of younger side of me, drawing back on my past and pulling out, is the New Wave Tarot. And I did just do in a video, I've talked about both of these recently. But New Wave came out when I was in high school. I was a punk girl sort of before that, and then New Wave came along, and I loved that too. When I went through this deck, and each card is a band or a song, and there's art that's evocative. The backs of it are mixtape, and these are just they're amazing. And I knew every song from these. And each suit has a different color. The court cards have a little bit more kind of going on in them. And in the book, as I've dug more and more into the book, the write-ups are amazing. It talks about the art. It talks about the group. It talks about the sort of kind of what came about the song or the group. It talks about the cultural impact, and then it has an A side and a B side for the meanings. And these are the upright and reverse meanings. The A side and is the upright, and the B side is the reverse meanings. And these are actual lyrics from the song or from the group that's featured here. And that's for the minors. When you get to the majors, and I do love, where is, the Empress is Madonna, which of course, I mean, it's just wonderful. The Emperor is Bono. He's in the news today. It's very interesting. And then the Hierophant is David Bowie, and the write-up here is just really terrific. And it links a lot of the other groups that are chosen, so you can see how they all interact, and it works perfectly with the tarot and the way of the story arc. And so for each major you have a mixtape suggestion here. So it's just been really great. I have been working with it. I've made a playlist, and I'm going to continue this. I just kind of got started at the very end here of May with this one, and it's definitely going to go into my summer practice as I work with it. Part of this for me is that when I was that age, when this all came out, I had an undiagnosed neurospiciness. I have an auditory processing disorder. And so music hit me in really different ways. My experience of music and lyrics were very different from other people. And so I think it's really normal for teenagers to feel pretty alienated. And also, I did actually have something that was going on that made me feel really different and alienated from other people, because my experience just seems so not in line with some of my my peers, my friends. So this is a fun kind of reclaiming excitement, and the music is just fun. I love that. And then I think the final deck that I'm bringing in is, and this changed a little bit for me, is the Shadowlands. I love this deck. I love the book, and I've played with it a little bit. And I don't know about you, but I have such a hard time working all the decks that I want in, and I keep buying more because I keep seeing more that are exciting and interesting. And there are only so many hours in a day, and nobody is paying me to do tarot full time. Although, hey, if somebody wants to, I would love that. So something has to come off my plate in order for me to do more tarot. And so what I decided is that instead of using my Wild Unknown for my new moon and full moon draws, I would start using the Shadowland Tarot. So that has been really fun. I've just done it once. I did it for this most recent new moon, but for the rest of the year, I'm going to be doing this. I do love the Wild Unknown, and I am committed to using it as my daily for the rest of the year. But it's... but I have to take something off my plate. So instead of using that also for the moon drawings, I'm using the Shadowland Tarot, and so far it has been terrific. So, all right, so look at how chatty this has gotten. 40 minutes in. Okay, so let me just give you a quick review. We did books, we did decks, and I'll just do a quick little review of my journal, just a little bit of a flip through. This is the Ritual Planner, Ritual Tarot Planner, and as I go along, I keep adding more stickers to the front of it. This one is a new one. On one of my trips, I just went to Washington, D.C., and I was able to go to the Hirshhorn, which is a modern art museum, part of the Smithsonian, and there was a Basquiat exhibit, Basquiat and Banksy, and this is a sticker of Basquiat. He's a graffiti, was a graffiti street artist who then became wildly popular for his raw, really energetic, amazing style. He actually dated Madonna back in the day, and I knew about him in the early 80s, and again with my sort of punk and new age leanings, like this art, I love graffiti, I love street art, and so I was so excited to see him. So all right, let's look real quick just at the journal. If you haven't seen this before, so I'll flip back in the back. The way this normally works, we'll start a month. Oops. The way it normally works, come on, okay, let's turn a page, is it starts with a month view. You've got some planner pieces here, a habit tracker, some places where you can do some goal setting, and then you do a month ahead spread, and then each week you have a layout. Monday, I picked a Monday start. I assume maybe that you could pick a Sunday start, but I always do Monday start. And you could also have picked a 3 card draw place, but I only wanted the one. There's a place for a 3-card draw at the beginning of the week, a message, an affirmation. So it has a guidance for you. It has it sort of laid out. And then it also has, when you get to the new moon and full moon, it has places for you to do that. And at the end of each month, so full moon, new moon, and then at the end of each month, you have a place for notes. I've already put stickers across the top, but this is the October. So if you haven't seen the way I journal before, oh, look, we have been right the end of March. One of the reasons I didn't do a wrap up at the beginning of April and the end of March is because I was so busy at the end of March. I actually had 3 different training projects, and then I flew to Phoenix, and this is when I was in Phoenix. And I didn't do the new moon because I didn't have time to do that too. And that's okay. So I don't have a problem with using my journal and not using parts of it, right? So if I skip this page, then it just means I have some blank space I can go back to. I won't go back and do like a moon spread from that long ago, but I might come back and just white out some of this space and put other things here, right? Use it for a different kind of reading. In fact, there are some wonderful rituals and spreads that Sincerely Shanna over on her channel has done. One is about latchkey kids, and one is about being a latchkey kid and the independence and empowerment, and that she got from that, and so she shared that spread. And there's another one about a punk rock guide to perimenopause, and I'm just dying to do that. I've just been thinking about it since she posted that video, so this might be where I put that in. And then I'll just put a little flag or a tab or something. It won't matter that it's out of chronological date. So here is my April. This is kind of what I do. If you're new to me, welcome, but I have a hard time with faces. It's part of that neurospiciness I didn't know about when I was a teenager. I only found out about it in my 40s. So I do have a hard time with faces as well as some auditory processing, and so I tend to just put stickers over faces that are difficult for me. I know Peppa the Pig does have a face, but it's not as difficult for me as that sunshine face. So what I do, and I've changed this a little bit, like at first I would write down the name of the card and I'd put the meaning in so I could kind of see it all at a glance. But since I do that day by day, I found this a little bit redundant, hard to keep up with. So I mostly, I look at some of the transit stuff. I'm getting better about this zodiac information. When I first got this journal, I was like, I don't know any of this stuff. It doesn't make any sense. I work with the moons. That makes sense to me. But now I've just kind of put in my travel, especially this month, because in April, I went to Phoenix, and then I went to Lisbon, Portugal, and then I went to Setúbal, which is also in Portugal, and then I went to London, or just outside of London, to see a friend, and then I took a train up and I went to Wales. I came back to London, and then I came home. So I traveled a lot, and it was it's good for me to see that here on the calendar. I might go back and start putting in like the days that I have projects, so I can kind of see how they're balanced. But as you saw, this is where I could have like a habit tracker or set intentions and stuff. I do put some of my goals. I do like to put in how I want to feel, but then I just start sticking in stickers. And these are just pictures that I took on my camera, and then I used a little app called LT Photo Print, and I printed them out on copier paper, Xerox paper from my printer. So, then I just use a glue stick and glue them down. And this is one of those places, it's like the month ahead spread, but I'm not very comfortable with divinatory readings, which I think I said. So I just use this space for something else. And I actually I did this journaling while I was there, but I was on a train when I was doing this journaling. So I put it on another piece of paper, and I've cut it out, and it's going to fit right in here. But I didn't go ahead and glue it in because I wanted to make this video, and I thought then I'll just have to cover it up because that part of that journaling was really personal. So I thought I'll just wait, and I do have it ready to glue in. But this is just me and my friends and some of what we were doing. And then this is, this is from my different trips, right? So this is a little bit of the map in Phoenix. This is my Wild Unknown reading. I do have another place in my journal here where I talked about my my readings with the Desert Illuminations, but I didn't take pictures. I have this little bookmark from the Tile Museum, the National Tile Museum in Portugal. Portugal's famous for their tiles. This one is actually pretty hilarious. I've never seen anything like it. It's done in like the 1600s. It's called the Chicken's Wedding. And so here's this little chicken over here. I guess these are supposed to be monkeys. I don't know. In the Middle Ages, I don't know that they really knew what some of these creatures look like. I mean, like maybe this is an elephant down here. I don't really know what some of these are. Anyway, they look like slee stacks to me. So if you know, you know. Anyway, that was just a fun piece, and I put things like that so that I know what's going on. I just use a little bit of washi tape, and I tip in menus or things. I put my draw in, and some days I do 3, right? Some days I'll do that, and I do when I travel. I have this little bin, and I've already. Calyx words. When I first got my Wild Unknown deck, I scanned it into my computer and I sized them for, well, actually when I got the Ritual Planner, I did this. I sized this in to the exact size for the Ritual Planner, and I have a whole sheet, so I can print the entire 78 cards out at this size on one piece of paper. And I could just travel with those flat, but sometimes I go ahead and pre-cut them out. Usually I sit and I cut a sheet out and then I put them in order while I'm watching some of your videos. So then I kind of use them until they're mostly used up, and then I do it again. So that's how, when I'm traveling, it's just pretty easy for me to go ahead and have one of these, and I use a glue stick, and I'm actually really picky about my glue stick. I use a Yoo-hoo glue stick. If you haven't used one of those before, oh, that's just not going in there, so we'll stick it over here. And then I carry this around. And I also put in other stickers. As I said, I love graffiti and street art. So I was in my happy place in Lisbon. I got to take a trip. I was actually there for an art class, and so we made a mixed media art journal. So this is me on our final day of show and tell. And this is an abbey that I got to go to. This is a sticker from Bizarro Gelato, which was a place. I think maybe it was in Monserrate, maybe it was in Sintra, I'm not really sure. I'll go back and look it up. But they had like tomato and peanut gelato. I had soy sauce and caramel, and it was delicious. These are just some little packages, like little that I just cut out and put on. So in addition to my tarot, I have the how it impacted me that day, what else I was seeing, and I'm a visual artist. I like to do that. And as you can see, I have another full moon spread. This was a day that I was actually on. We flew from Lisbon to London this day, and our flight was delayed because of the fog. We were fogged in, and this was just not a day. And by the time we got there and got settled in, I was traveling with a group of about 4 friends to go see another friend. It just wasn't going to happen. And I'm not very good about going back and filling in moon work, right? Especially for a full moon, which is like a celebratory time for me. So this is another one of those pages I'll just repurpose later on. And then again, I don't use these necessarily as intended. I just use some whiteout and cover up the things I need to. I put in stickers. I did do the draws here. Anytime there's a picture on the left here, that's just a day I didn't do a draw. I was on a train this day and my cards were slipping around. I got really nervous. I didn't want to do one. Here's the day that I got back and my little puppy just wouldn't let me out of his sight. So his little squishy face. And then over here, I had gone up. This is my friend Pat. We have been friends for 4.5 years now. We met during COVID. We met online in an art group, and we became fast friends, and we texted outside the group. We've kept up and stayed friends, but we've never seen each other in person because she lives in Wales. So I got to meet her for the first time, and look, I'm getting to stand. I'm in 2 countries at the same time. I have 1 foot in Wales and 1 foot in England. Who gets to do that? So this was a wonderful time. I tried Marmite, which I thought was delicious. I know some people really don't like it. I had some homemade sourdough bread with a little bit of Marmite. It was a little goes a long way if you haven't had it before, but it was a lot of fun, and I thought that was really fun with the Ace of Wands and new things. And So again, I just put my draw and I write. I do the new moon. This was the last time I did the wild unknown. And at the end, I put in some, just little pieces. I make little notes about decks that I used in the month. And these are little stickers from the Spirit Carrier Oracle, Illuzia. When she sends decks, she has little stickers on them. And I love them. This is from a bag of that I bought at a tile store, so you can see all the different tiles. I just thought it was really perfect. And then we get into May. Oh, and look, I did a little a little wrap up for myself. I ended up traveling 16,000 miles when I went to Phoenix, and I went to Lisbon and London. I also actually flew to Nashville, Tennessee, and then drove to Michigan on Derby Day. So if you don't know American geography, to go from Nashville, Tennessee up north to Michigan, you go straight through Louisville, Kentucky, which is where the Kentucky Derby was happening right as I was driving through. So that was a little bit of a nightmare. It was really rainy. I drove 620 miles. I dropped off a car and then I flew home. And then at the end of May, just for Memorial Day weekend, I went to Washington, D.C. So 16,000 miles and 25,900, so almost 26,000 kilometers I traveled. And I still managed to do a lot of tarot there. And I did, again, I put my goals here. I did manage to film and post 4 videos in May. I had none in April, but and then I'm back to roller skating. I love to roller skate, so I'm putting that in my journal as well. And I did not declutter. I did integrate some new decks, so that's been fun. I am on a new no buy, you all. I have 90 days of no buying decks because I have got to integrate and start working with the ones that I have. So this is just at the beginning. Here sometimes I work with a little devotional. Let's see if I can show this little devotional as part of my practice too. I use this Whole and Holy Goddess Devotional by Molly Reamer. And I just kind of, a little bibliomancy, just find a blessing or a prayer or something in here. And I put it at the beginning of the week. This is part of my wristband for when I go roller skating. So if you see these in here, that's what's going on. When I order a new deck, I put the little cards in here sometimes. And depending, like on the left is where I do my Wild Unknown, but sometimes when I'm working with other decks, I put them on the right. These are little pieces of tape from some decks that I ordered. This is an ocean one that I'm going to use in July for my birthday. This is from the Folkloric Tarot up here. I love it when creators have stickers. Here's the full moon. I have a little, what is this called? A Hay House affirmation calendar. And so sometimes I put things in there, right? So a little delta. I love stickers. So I have a lot of bees because this is leading up to World Bee Day. And I've started posting for myself a little sticker and then the name of a video that I'm posting that day. Oh, and this day in May, you all, last week, I drew the same Season of the Witch cow card 3 days in a row. I think I already mentioned that, but it was crazy. And clearly, I drew the moon twice over here, 2 days in a row. So that's unusual. I'll kind of go in spates and draw cards kind of every couple of days or, 4 times a month, but 3 days in a row. I've never done that before. And I did shuffle. It was kind of crazy. And then here is my new moon. And now I started using the Shadowland. So that's been really exciting to me to work that in. And then here are some pieces about DC. Right, so that I just put in. And then I'm ready to move into June. I do have one more trip planned. And I'm excited. I really was pretty proud of myself for as much tarot journaling and tarot drawing as I did. And right before this last trip, actually, I had a great conversation with Shanna, sincerely Shanna D. So her channel is great. I'm sure you know about it, but if you don't, go check it out. And she had a wonderful tip for me when I posted about traveling. And she had said she uses an old a Bible carrier. Bible cover. And I was sure I had one and I couldn't. I have one somewhere because I probably have 2 or 3 old ones, but I couldn't find one anywhere. So I did, however, in that search, I actually found an old Erin Condren. This is the name of my company, Moxie Journal. That's why it's the name of my channel. But I found an old Erin Condren planner cover. And I was like, oh, my tarot journal is about that size. So look how perfect this is. The way this is a neoprene kind of cover. And then it's got this little piece here. You can slide this in. And then on top of it, there's room. Let's see, so I can put like my Shadowlands book, I can put my deck, and then zip it all up. And then I can just carry this, and this was really great. The other thing about this was that when I was on the plane, this fit perfectly on the little tray, and I did my reading right in front of me, and this sort of neoprene, it wasn't very slippery, and it kept my cards from touching. I did also have a bandana in case that would have been easier, but this ended up being a really nice background. So I repurposed it. So thank you, Shanna, for the idea about using an old book or Bible case, but I used a planner cover, and it was just great. So if you have any tips or tricks for travel or decks that you find particularly useful when you travel, I would love to hear about that. I know this has been a really long video. Maybe you've had it on 1.5 speed or something. Thank you for sticking with me. That was 2 months worth, and I am so grateful for you. I've just hit 100 subscribers, which is really exciting for me. 100 new people that I didn't know in Tarot Land that I'm now connected to somehow. So thank you if you're a subscriber. Thank you so much. I so appreciate you. And if you're not and you liked this content, and if you're here at the end, I'd love it if you would subscribe. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Have a great day.